Hey, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. Another one. We're at episode 190 for the Struggling Hunters.
90,
What did I say?
190.
Oh, I meant 90.
I
I don't
just
know
didn't
what.
want to give out false information. Sorry.
No, I appreciate the correction. I can't believe I don't know what I was thinking. Um,
You just like aged us a year and a half.
well, I, I feel like our future is bright. So I was just kind of
Right.
imagining that. All right. Well, my bad. So yeah, episode 90, not 190, 90. Got the Struggling Hunters. You got the Big Show Joe, and you
Howdy.
got myself, Eric. And we're back at it with another podcast. I guess to kick things off, Joe, what'd you think of last week's podcast? We did that one together, and
Well, I think I might want to start off by saying sorry if it sounded like we were a little lost there for a minute before we got into a groove, if we got into a groove. But it was I liked it. It was fun being together for the first time. Or not for the first time, but the first time in a year and a half, I guess, since we've done one together, not over Zoom. But I thought it went good. It was fun to be together and to, I guess, the feel of each other's company in person, not over a screen. That was nice.
yeah, a couple things. I mean, the way I started out tonight, you said sorry if we felt a little lost last week, but the way that I started off tonight's podcast, I think I was a little lost tonight. I'm probably worse off tonight than I was last week. But uh to kind of go off of what you were saying, I at first, yeah, it felt a little weird or whatnot. Um Trying to get that flow because we're so used to doing this Zoom stuff to
Right.
get that flow with each other. But I feel like it started really panning out in the middle and toward the end. It started working out. And yeah, man, I don't know. It was fun though. It's fun to do one together like that. And yeah, hopefully in the future we can do more of them. And I really enjoyed it. And um yeah, it was just a good podcast, I thought.
Yeah, I thought it was too. It was a couple good topics. I guess it was kind of fun too to be together as we kind of did a little bit of a review, not of the full year, but of part of our hunts and stuff, through in
Yeah.
some experiences and things we'd look forward to for next year.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just a good podcast, and hopefully we keep bringing them. I think I said the same thing last year. It feels like this time of year is really hard to bring up good topics, or we're not getting out hunting as much as the rest of the year. And
Right.
so yeah, just trying to come up with topics and have ideas for the podcast is can be a little bit challenging, but hey, we're getting through it. And yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. I was trying to I'll be honest, I was trying to segue into our archery topics here. um but it just didn't quite work out the way the way I was hoping. So let me just go ahead and segue in. So tonight we're doing the 10 tips for bow hunting elk. And the last few weeks we've started off with get in shape, practice, be bivy ready, find elk, and hunt hidey holes. Joe, I've been kind of talking a little while. I'll let you take it off from there. I know
Uh,
you kind of
yeah.
have some thoughts on that.
Yeah. So, and if you read the article, he goes into to kind of give the point that elk don't like to be pressured and bothered and or messed with. They want to live their life out peacefully, and so they try to find those spots, and he tries to drive home the point of getting into like the kind of the hard to get to places. It seems everyone it seems like elk have figured out that there's certain areas where people don't really like to go. And those are typically the areas that are hard to get to. Maybe that, like little steeper terrain, thick brush, dense trees. But there's ways you can get in and get around it, or hunt that to be successful. Use that to your advantage. And he says, at the end of it, he says, if you've you'll have elk all to yourself if you can find these spots because no one else is willing to get into. And like, yeah, my thoughts on that, I think it's true. It's kind of interesting as we like talk about it this year's hunt. It's kind of fun in a way because this is the first year we've kind of had not the grab and grin horns success, but we've got into elk this year and got to see some and watch some. And so I feel like this next year and every episode previous is gonna, we always throw in what our experience was like this past season. And with that, it's kind of a big success story for us, even though we haven't put anything on the ground. But this last year, I was hunting one area where my tag was just good for a spike, bull, and a cow. And I chose a spot on the map. It looked kind of, it was a big bull area. I didn't realize how, bad it was. But I got up there before dark and sat there for a couple hours, and, I got to watch a handful of bulls go down in this kind of the bottom of this bowl in this little ridge and stuff that was on there. So I guess what I'm getting at is I felt like I found one of these hidey holes. And it was kind of interesting to me too, because I wasn't that far from the road. And I did go down into this spot the next day, came across, there's a lot of would it be scrapes? Is that what, or like where they tore up the ground?
Oh yeah.
A rubs on a tree, and I think a scrapes on the ground. But there's a couple spots where the ground was scraped up pretty good. There was elk fur on the trees where they went through. I didn't get into anything, but hiking down, it was a steep hike down into it. And it was steep, and then there's a lot of deadfall. So it was a heck of a hike to get down into it. And I went down even further, and I was going to hike up this other side, and I got looking to where I was going to hike out of, and I made the decision that I didn't want to go any further, because if I got something down in there further than what I was going to be not a fun pack out.
Yeah.
But I did see a lot of sign of elk, and it was kind of a good reaffirming thing of finding hidey holes.
Mm-hmm.
And like I guess not what to like what to look for, what exactly that was that going to be, because it as looking back on it, it was a north facing slope. It was this huge bowl that in the middle of or kind of the one side of the bowl, there was just this little finger ridge that was down in there a little further, that gave the elk kind of like a little place that they could get up gain a little bit of elevation. Good feeding area, and there was like a spring down to one side of it, so there was water in there for them, and it was a great little setup for them. And no one else was going on that side. Everyone else that was there, like they're just four-wheelers and such, but they were all going to the south side of it. So it was like a main finger ridge, this big mountain, I guess. But it was atop this ridge and everybody was going to the south. There was like 4 or 5 4-wheelers and everything, and everybody went to the south, and I was the only one going to the north. I don't know if they saw anything, but it was just kind of interesting too.
Yeah, that you got into that activity.
Yeah, and it wasn't like, it wasn't just 1 or 2 bulls, but like I was trying to count in my head. There are no one like there had to see. I think I saw 2, maybe 3, 2 bulls going down one spot. Then I had 2 other bulls up from where those 2 bulls were going down through the bottom. And then there was one up higher. So that, like there was 5 bulls. I'd probably safe to say there's at least 6 that
Oh
was
wow.
running around in there. And one of them was was a pretty good bull. I didn't get to watch him for very long, but good bull. If I had a big bull, big bull tag, I probably really jumped down in there.
Yeah, for sure. But I do man, with my experience, I feel like every time I get into, I don't know, I say that, and I've seen a few people back there, but that's the thing though, is a lot of the time, in my experience, a lot of people are just on the roads driving around and hoping that something, something crosses the road or whatnot, and I've seen a few people in the backwoods and stuff and ran across them, but you get a couple miles into the woods and it's kind of lonely out there as far as people. And
Right.
but with that said, I mean that's where I see the sign, and that's where kind of gotten into activity, and it's a good yeah. I think doing that and kind of going where you feel like most people don't want to go is definitely an advantage.
True.
And it can be tough, and that's why probably the number one thing on here, getting into shape, going back to that. I mean, that's really why you want to do it though, is because
Yeah.
it's tough getting back in those hidey holes. And
I think, yeah, that probably should be, like you just said, should be labeled hidey holes in shape, being in shape. Like,
yeah,
if it might be like I wasn't that far from the road, but the hike down to where I was going, it was a fairly steep hike. It wasn't just a walk in the park to get to where even though they weren't far from the road, it was still a little bit of a trek to, it wasn't that far of a distance, but the terrain was steep and full of deadfall, and so it made it sucked going down and out of that.
well, if you think about it, they probably through years past, they just understand that that's kind of a sanctuary for them, so that's why that's a
Right.
lot of activity for one little area
Right.
that you walk down it. I mean, what'd you say about 5 or 6 bowls?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot of activity for that little bit. So it kind of tells me that they kind of know what the program's all about up in there.
Right. And I'm kind of excited too, because for this next year coming up, because I got thinking about it, and there's a road that I can actually go around to, and I can look from the road back up this canyon. It's kind of a ways, and I was kind of surprised I didn't see much people like road hunting on that side or glassing, back to where I was. So I kind of hope I can get in there this year and do some, I guess, road spotting, just to see, like it's from the road to where those elk were. It's that side where I'd be driving the truck on that one. That's a steep, and it's a long hike down in there from there. So, it's not even appealing to like really want to take off and go hiking into there from the other side. But I can at least, I feel, set in my truck and look across to see if I can see anything.
See what the program is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of a tactic too that I don't know is talked about enough, but instead of wasting a bunch of energy and stuff, if you can utilize a vehicle to
Right.
kind of spot where you're going. I mean, I feel like, I don't feel like there's nothing wrong with it. I don't feel like it's necessarily road hunting. I mean,
Right.
you're
Yeah.
just trying to, I feel like it's just different. You're just trying to find your advantage. And
Correct. Well, and that's like the one thing too, like we talked about last week, like using the glass and spending more time behind it. Like that's maybe how you can find some of these hidey holes or these sanctuaries if you can find a good spot. If it takes driving your rig around and it might be just off the road, but just up some nasty hillside that no one else is going, I don't, the other thing too, like I don't fully understand is there like a time limit for these hidey holes too? Like I know, well, I guess there is as far as the hunt's concerned. How like here's a spot where the elk don't where the elk feel safe at. I guess they're probably more or less going to stay there till they feel like they've been there long enough or they haven't seen anybody, like seen a human presence or something. Or do they just stay there until winter comes in and they get pushed out too?
pushes them down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing about elk, because they're they can move so far so fast, but then at the same time, if there's nothing pushing them, are they gonna do they need to move?
Right.
Are they gonna move?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe we better. That'll be the Maybe that's something that we could like look up and try to figure out for sure, like what kind of movement they actually do.
Right. Cause I've heard people talk about like, they'll kind of graze in a circle or something, like they might be back to that spot in a week or something, like, but they're just taking their time going around the mountain. But I guess if it's a sanctuary, that probably, they feel safe. They might hang out there longer than you expect.
I feel like that has to be pretty true, right? Because the I guess the word that we're kind of saying is they can be pretty nomadic, right?
Right.
But at the same time, if they're not really being pressured, are they gonna? Is there a reason for them to be nomadic at that point?
Right. Like it kind of goes like, I feel like there's like a ratio of being pressured to not feeling the pressure and time being there, not feeling the pressure too. If
Uh,
I even make any sense at all.
no, I get it. I think that I think that yeah, just kind of getting off on the weeds on that.
No,
Because
for
I mean,
sure.
we're talking, we're just saying like, try to find hidey holes to
Well,
hunt and go a little further, and then we go off in the weeds about how nomadic they are.
right. And then right now that's probably why we aren't all that great at elk hunters too, because we get out there, we get talking, we're like, oh, I think I'll just go over here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you say that though, but like I feel like it's gotten better and better. I mean, obviously our success rate still ain't high as far as elk go, but um man, like I feel like we're figuring the game out, and it's probably from doing all that, talking about
Right.
let's go over here, and oh, that didn't work, and
Well, and that's like,
oh,
trying to, we talk about trying to make changes and stuff and do understand and do better. And, like this hidey hole that I'm talking about tonight, like I kind of did it's a north facing slope. It's a big bowl. There's a bench in there where the elk want to be, or that people say where elk want to be. And I tripped across elk, so
yeah.
I
Yeah, it's
had
kind of
another
fun.
point, but I forgot it.
Well, it's kind of funny to what you say though about that, because I feel like that's where we kind of got into more activity, is staying with the programming in that sense. And what I mean is we took all those little pointers and actually played them. We actually looked for benches. We worked the draws and tried to, watch our wind. And I mean, I was pretty excited this year, for whatever it's worth. I was pretty excited how much activity we got into.
True.
And obviously the ultimate goal is to have some success, but man, getting into the elk the way we did, for both of us, I it was kind of exciting to have that much activity, and couldn't quite close the distance this year, but um we just got into so much activity. And I mean, I don't want to be too confident because I'll get humbled real quick, but I'm confident to think that next year I don't see how we couldn't run into that same type of success and work off of what we learned this last year to next, and put it toward next year to help our chances of success.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. It's fun. It's fun to try to figure out.
Yeah. And, I guess it is fun to figure out. And we're sitting here stumbling over our words, trying to understand what we're trying to say. And I guess that's, it kind of goes back to why we're doing this podcast too, is just trying to create a platform that for those that are listening can learn from how we're struggling to become better, and then to even like discuss it between ourselves. So that way, maybe next year, it's not like starting all over on a clean slate of, okay, I hunted last year. What were the things that I need to learn from last year to better myself this year? And, getting on and doing the podcast once a week and talking about some of those things that we've messed up on and we felt we did good on, like reiterate some of that and hope drive that home on the stuff that we did good on. So that way we're not trying to recall it opening morning
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the hunt.
Yeah. That's what kind of, yeah, to reiterate what Joe said. I mean, that's kind of what this podcast is about, is obviously we wanted to go through all the emotions and everything, to for the guys listening and stuff, to go through all the things that way. But I think it helps me and Joe out more than probably we help other people out sometimes.
Right.
Honestly, because we're just trying to figure it out. It's simple. We love doing this stuff, and we just love talking about it and figuring it out. And so we kind of put ourselves out there. It kind of sucks. I mean, I wish it would be like, you gotta do it this way,
Right.
do it this way, or there's no way, and be all confident about it. But I mean, hey, we're putting ourselves out there. It is what it is.
Right.
I don't care. But I think we're a little better than what we put off sometimes. I know we put in the work,
Yeah.
and it's public land hunts. I mean, yeah, I hate to say it, but I mean, it's just some of these people that are glorifying their hunts. I mean, that they're a little more fortunate, maybe. We're just trying to. We got all the elements. We got the public land. We're hunting against other public land hunters, and
Well, and like, the other thing too is kind of, I know we've talked about it in the past, but we're two guys that have hunted kind of off and on their whole lives, but, I've seen some success in the deer world, but not in the elk world yet. In just trying to understand that, like before I even got into elk hunting, I'd talk to people and they're, like, oh, I had a belt buckle. It had two bull elk fighting on it. And I wore it for years and really liked the belt buckle, and I wore it out. But anyways, people would always be like, hey, you elk hunt? Like, no. Well, what about your belt buckle? Like, I just like the belt buckle. And, and I was like, I don't want to really go into elk hunting because I don't really understand it. And I didn't have anyone taking me out elk hunting. And, deer, sound is almost like in a way shooting fish in a barrel, because there's so many more deer than there is. Yes, you still got to hunt them and work hard, but trying to find elk habitat is different than stumbling into deer habitat. But I was always in, like, oh, I don't hunt elk because I don't have anyone that really teach me, and I don't understand them. And I've been hunting elk, I guess now for, I think this is like 7 or 8 years and haven't got anything yet.
Yeah.
But it's all been a learning process for me, and trying to digest all the information and to where I understand what I need to do. That's even though people are like, oh, like, this is all you got to do. And okay, I hear you. And I get out there and it's like, I think I'm doing this the way they said to do it.
Yep.
But
yeah, it's funny that you bring that up, because I was thinking about that very same thing the other day, about kind of the fact that we have hunted all our lives. And I look back whenever I was younger and I'm like, man, I thought I was a good hunter, like, I mean,
yeah,
not that I was bringing home trophies or nothing, but I mean, I got my deer every year, sometimes doe, sometimes bucks. I never got like a big old trophy buck, but
right,
get lucky and get a buck or something. And but yeah, and I really thought I was a good hunter, but then with a little perspective and age, and then transitioning over to elk hunting and focusing on that, I'm like, I wasn't really half as good as I believe myself to be. And I wish I would have probably paid a little more attention to some of the mentors I had, and put in more effort toward it, I guess, toward elk hunting, especially when we lived in Idaho, because it was still good there too. But
yeah,
anyway, it doesn't really matter. Just one of those things I was kind of reminiscing on. I'm like, man, I thought I was such a good hunter back then. I wasn't nothing.
right,
I
yeah,
still don't really feel, I mean, I don't feel like I'm, we never, I mean, that's why we've said this before, but that's why we're the struggling hunters. We don't claim to be great hunters. We just love doing it and trying to figure it out. And hopefully one day maybe we can consider ourselves okay hunters, but, um, just love doing the stuff. So,
right,
uh, but yeah, man, I mean, as far as my elk hunt never went, I'd buy a tag. I probably bought a tag like every other year, an elk tag.
yeah,
And it was just like, if one runs in front of me or something, if I see one, I'll shoot it or whatever. But mostly just hunting for uh for whitetails.
right,
I
right,
wish I wish that we could go back to Idaho though, like kind of knowing what we know now about hunting and even whitetail hunting, like uh really getting into it with
true,
whitetails. Because I look back whenever I was younger. Reason I bring that up, because I look back whenever I was younger and I was like, uh, things that I've learned over the years. I'm like, I don't think I was putting myself in very good positions to get the trophy bucks.
right,
Um, I was just kind of hunting wherever, and man, I had a couple. I mean, I've talked about it before, but I had a couple opportunities for some nice bucks that were just pure luck chances, but I'd hesitate just a second too long, or there's always a reason.
right,
And then ended up not getting a shot off or whatever the case may be. But other than that, I mean, that was just pure luck. But I look back now and I'm like, man, I wish we kind of still live there. Maybe go after some trophies.
right. Yeah, we'll have to put that in a hunt for one of these years. I definitely would like to go back to. There's a couple spots that I'd like to check out to see if there's anything worth hunting, or not worth. Well, of course there'll be something worth hunting, but just kind of just to check out and see.
Yeah. Yeah. I look back on some of that and think like some of my opportunities that I missed out on was probably not being at the right spot at the right times.
Right.
missing the time, like the afternoon hunts,
Right.
not being in the right spot for those. And um yeah, just kind of, I don't know. Would have been fun. Would have been fun to kind of dial that in a little bit better. Why we lived over there.
True. It would have been, yeah. I mean, you even just understand, and yeah, like you said, just the little bit that we know now, taking that back then and dialing stuff in a little bit better for sure.
Yeah, spending more time in the hidey holes. I
Right.
think at the end of the day, I just realized, I'm like, I don't know how this podcast is going to come out. Number 90 might not be the best one that we've ever done, but it's another podcast, so it is what it is. But um, yeah, bringing it back to the hidey holes. If we could have found better hidey holes in Idaho.
Right. Yeah. So I guess, finding them hidey holes, no matter what you're hunting, it will help you.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't know. I think that's about all I have for what we had tonight. We'll kind of just maybe cut it off and call this an episode.
Sounds good.
Did you have any closing remarks? Last words?
Last words, nope. Just I say nope, and then I say just. My last words is the next couple months, just gearing up to work on making some podcasts, trying to figure out some content, and working toward the turkey season coming up. Try to figure those things out, those little burgers, and
Yeah.
uh and figure out what we want to do for our hunts this next coming year. And yeah, just get close. We're getting close to that 100 episode, so maybe
True.
after 100 we'll start getting good at this thing.
uh, it might be a thing, but
Yeah, maybe.
but stay tuned and follow us as we hit episode 100. See if we maybe get worse or better. That probably all depends on the mood you guys are in that are listening to us.
Yeah,
But we appreciate you guys taking time out of your day, your evening or your afternoon, listening, watching us, whichever it may be. We really appreciate it. Give us a like and a subscribe. Next week we'll have another topic, another rabbit holes. We'll go down somewhere, I'm sure. We'll keep you in that suspense. But yeah, thanks again, guys. We'll catch you again in episode 91. Have a good one.
later.